Hey everybody, it's Taylor with Boydston Grove, and today we're going to show you how to make a one-of-a-kind spice rack. Let's get into it. A friend of mine asked me to work on a spice rack that he could give to his wife for their anniversary. Aww. I know, right? Now his wife happens to be a chef that has spices in containers that are all different shapes and sizes, and they want to be able to put this rack up into a kitchen cabinet, so it has to meet all these specifications. Alright, so my idea is to make a Lazy Susan style multi-tier spice rack. So we're going to start with a bottom tier that will sit on a Lazy Susan or turntable bracket, and I think I'll even make another little shelf on top of that for smaller spices, and it will go up to a top tier and it will all spin on the bracket. And I think it would be really cool if we added some punched metal as the railing around both the top and bottom tiers.
Well, that really seems like a lot of trouble.
So let's get started. I started with some scrap pine planks that I salvaged from an old bookcase. The small green saw that you see me using was sent to me by a tool company called Chica. They reached out to me and asked if I wouldn't mind using this tool on a few projects and just letting them know what I think. So far, I'm really happy with it. It's nice that it's small and compact, that I can take it onto different job sites to do quick adjustments or to cut smaller pieces of wood. I'm working on a full review, and I'll leave a link to it in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. To cut the circles, I attached each piece to my crosscut sled and slowly and carefully rotated the boards. It ended up working really well. Then it was off to the sander. I wanted the rails to sit in a groove rather than being attached to the outer edge of each circle. So I rigged up my router with an 1/8 inch bit from my CNC, a Colette adapter, and a makeshift fence. As John Malecki might say, this looks a little squirrely, but it actually worked out pretty good. Then I swapped out to a chamfer bit and put a chamfer around the bottom edge of the two big circles. I had some scrap mahogany left over from the console table, so I cut down a piece so that I could use it for the center pillar of the rack. Using Titebond 2, some screws and brad nails, I assembled the main body of the rack. I made sure to countersink the screw on the top circle enough so that I could insert a dowel to cover the screw head. I finished the wooden pieces of the rack with some Odie's oil. I ordered a sheet of punched metal from Amazon for the rails of the spice rack. You can pick this stuff up at the local big box stores, but I needed longer pieces to fit around the circles, and it was much cheaper to order it online. I'll leave a link to what I used in the description. After cutting it to size, I sprayed the pieces with some satin black spray paint. While it was drying, I started working on the Lazy Susan feature. The bracket, also known as a turntable bracket, was too large for the base that I made, so I used a set of shears to trim off the corners. Attaching the bracket was pretty straightforward, and since the base was so small, I was able to reach the other 4 screws without having to drill an access hole in the base like you normally would with these type of brackets. I'll leave a link to the bracket that I used in the description below. I know, I said I didn't want the rail attached to the outside edge of the shelves, but I figured this would be the easiest way to attach the rail to the inner level, and it'll be covered by the spices anyway. I really like E6000 because it'll stick just about anything to anything else, and it has a really thick gel consistency, so it worked perfectly when putting that punched metal into the grooves of the wood. However, in hindsight, I wish I hadn't used it where the punched metal meets up to each other, because when E6000 dries, it has more of a rubbery consistency, kind of like hot glue would have when it dries. So it has a little bit of give, so those joints where the pieces of metal meet up have a little bit of flex to them. It's not a super big deal because this punched metal is so short and it fits in the groove really tight, so it doesn't move a lot. But if you were working on a larger project and that seam was longer, you might have a little bit of separation, so I would use something like 5-minute epoxy. Another thing to consider when you're using E6000 is, yes, it is great to use, but it takes up to 24 hours to dry and 72 hours to completely cure. Alright, our spice rack is finished and I'm really happy with the end result. There's a few things you might want to change to fit your own situation. For this particular spice rack, I made it a little high because the person that I made it for has particular spices that they want in this spot that have a certain height. But the problem with that is this does not fit under a standard countertop height, so it would be really difficult to put this under your upper cabinets of your kitchen. So you might want to make it a little lower if you wanted to actually keep this on your counter, unless you have open space like we do here. Another thing to consider is that the person that this is for is putting it in a cupboard that has removable shelves, so they can move the shelves up and down to make as much room as they want. If your shelves don't move, then you need to make sure to make the height to fit in that space so you can still easily pull out the spices if you need to. Other than that, I'm really happy with how this came out. It's a really unique design. It just looks like a one-of-a-kind spice rack. Let me know in the comments below what you think of it. Thank you very much for watching. Be safe and have a great day.